good? What's good? What's good? Good morning. Welcome to Afro Sundays. Got a special guest in the background, Traveling Tony. You know, we're gonna talk about some things, man. Hopefully, you guys have some questions, man. It's gonna be a grown man conversation. Let me turn the background down. Let me see who in the building real quick. Buck Travel. What's good, man? He said, I've been saying this for the longest. Make friends with the local men and have them introduce you to quality women. Okay. Shout out to Buck Travel, man. Man, the countdown, man. I'm nervous, man. Going back to Africa, man. Countdown, man. About 3 more weeks. Been about 2 years. So I got Traveling Tony in the background. I'm gonna bring him up, have him introduce himself. He's out in Tanzania, or Tanzania, however you want to call it. What's good, man?
What's going on, brother? What's going on? How's the connection going? Is it looking okay or is it choppy?
You okay?
I'm okay. Cool. Yeah, I'm Traveling Tony. I'm here in Tanzania. I've been in Africa for almost 2 years. I've been a nomad for 7 years total. I'm here. I'm married to a traditional Tanzanian woman. I could give some insights on local life in Tanzania. I lived so far in 4 African countries. I did South Africa for a little bit. Wasn't for me, so I left early. But Uganda, Tanzania, Kenya as well. So I'm more versed on East Africa than I am the other regions, but I have had some experience in Southern Africa.
Okay. So yeah, man, Traveling Tony, man, I've met, got acquainted with him through like certain, travel groups. And, I really respect, his perspective on the different countries, culture. And I would say for the most part, we see the same things or saw the same things when it came to certain countries. So, so I tend to gravitate towards guys that kind of have the same thought process when it comes to a lot of things. This topic today kind of stems from something he kind of, mentioned to me a couple of times, and I was like, you know what? I think a lot of men need to, hear your points about talking to men of her country and not necessarily women. So before we kind of like get directly into that, what was like the process? I guess what was like the trial and error that made you realize, you know what, I need to, kind of talk to the men. Like did something happen? Like what was your like trials and errors or mishaps in traveling for you to come to that conclusion?
Well, it's just between dealing with women in the States, dealing with women overseas, and then, I just pieced everything together, on the nomadic journey, the journey of life. We aren't taught everything we have to learn, on our own. So I learned that aspect from taking L's. So, L's aren't just losses, it's learning lessons. So I had a lot of learning lessons dealing with women in the States and overseas. So, women are going to tell you whatever. They're always going to try to boost your ego. So I learned that you can't really listen to women. But in certain scenarios too, you also, when you're asking the men, right, let's say a nationalistic country, right, you're going to ask, let's say you ask a Colombian dude, right, about Colombian women. What do they say? You go to Colombia, you're more versed than me in Colombia, right? What would they say if you ask a Colombian man about Colombian women?
It's gonna vary based on the city and the neighborhood or what it's gonna be based on the guy. Like if I'm in Medellin, for example, and I run across a guy that's like one of the guys that's hanging out in a park or something like that, or one of the I don't know what you call them in Spanish, but basically they look like just hood dudes, right? Now, if I talk to one of them, they're gonna be like, they're gonna give a perspective of saying like, you don't want to, touch these women, or they're, pretty much they're like putas and stuff like that. But if I talk to a guy that's working like a 9 to 5, a guy that's going to church, he's gonna give me a different perspective than a different guy. So that's kind of the difference I've been seeing. Like if we want to use Colombia, so like men in church are going to have a certain perspective, and then men that's like in the street are going to have a certain perspective. What up, Murph? Hold on, let me unmute you.
No, I muted myself.
Okay.
Yeah, I muted myself. Okay, I mean that's a good way of looking at it too. I guess the socioeconomic status of the man will, I guess, determine what he's going to say, right? Okay, cool. I usually like to ask the working class to the professional man his opinion. Guy maintaining households, right? The working guy. A hood dude is not going to maintain a household usually, right? So I don't even count those dudes. So you ask these working class guys, what do you say they're going to say again? The working class guys are going to say what?
More of like the guys that go to church. So, you got more you got more Catholics in like Latin America. So, there are more men that attend like church than we would see than in the US. But yeah, they would pretty much say like, the good women are in church. They will talk about like how, marriage is something that is common in their country, even though the statistics don't say it. But their perspective is, like things like marriage is common, finding a good woman is common, but they'll kind of center it around more like religion or church girls, so to speak. If you want to find a decent woman in Colombia.
Okay, cool. That's a good answer. So what I noticed is when you're asking these dudes these questions, it depends on the country, right? So more nationalistic countries like Colombia and Brazil, right? So I'm gonna use Brazil, use South America as an example, right? Places I lived, so I could talk about. So Colombia, you ask dudes about, tell me about Colombian women, right? They're mainly gonna say, oh, they're so beautiful. Their main point is beauty, right? That's the main point when they talk about Colombian women. They don't talk about their submissiveness. They're not talking about cooking and cleaning, things of that nature, how they'll treat you as a wife. They say they're beautiful. So that is the only trait for Colombian women that people, not just Colombians, but everybody key in on, the beauty, right? That's the main point. Am I right or wrong? Right? So, okay, with Brazilian women, they're similar. They're similar with how the dudes were saying. They would say, oh, Brazilian girls are so beautiful, so sexy, just physical attributes. But that's all they could give you. They can't really say anything about submission, cooking, cleaning, making the best wives. Yes, the church route is the best route, right? Overall, everywhere. But another thing you want to think about too is the prevalence of feminism in the country and how it has affected the men. So countries that don't have feminism, for example, I would say, where's a place where feminism isn't too big besides here? Uganda, right? Ugandan dudes speak very highly of Ugandan women.
Yeah, they do.
Have you spoken to any Ugandan dudes?
I haven't spoke to any Ugandan dudes, but one thing I notice about the people that I like follow in Uganda on WhatsApp, on social media, there's always weddings.
Yeah,
so
right.
So that means men are asking women to be their wives in large numbers, which you don't see in Colombia. You don't see in America's dudes like just marrying women left and right. So I
Right.
definitely noticed that.
I noticed that in East Africa as a whole, the people here are getting married, and it's not just men asking women to marry them. It's situations like mine where the woman asks you to marry them, or the family. When you go meet the family, they say, "Will you marry my daughter?" When they
Oh wow,
respect you,
I didn't know that.
yeah, they're gonna be like, "Will you marry my daughter?" The pressure is put on by these African families. The traditional families, the whole goal of a tradition, the traditional like thing is to keep the household together, the man, woman, child, all that, right? So they don't want their daughter just to be having casual sex with the guy or living together off and on. They're good, they're not good, whatever. They want you to have that solid family structure, and they're going to do everything in their power to ensure that we're going to have this solid family structure.
Facts, facts, facts. So it's something that, and I want to get your opinion on. I don't want to make generalizations, but I noticed in Latin culture, in Latin America specifically, the DR and Colombia, where I'm more familiar with as far as dating, women and their fathers or men, they never really like grilled me. They never really wanted to ask about my intentions and they never really was hands on with the women. Usually they leave it more up to the moms to kind of be hands on with the women, and they have a more passive way of raising their daughters. Not all, because I've seen some Dominicans that's real strict with their daughters, and we've probably seen videos where she getting publicly embarrassed for doing something crazy, things like that. Um, More so DR, but Colombia, the men just don't seem like they really try to control their daughters. They pretty much let them be free for the most part. Um, but they do get mad respect from their daughters and from their wives. Um, but they still have a passive way of dealing with women. And so when I used to think about the machismo culture, I looked at it as them being like aggressive, hard on the women, but their machismo is more of them, feeling like they can be with multiple women, um, pretty much come and go as they please, and women have to accept it, but not really in aggressive like. Put it like this: in Africa, I've heard of more men you know, putting their hands on women in Africa, checking them than in Latin America. So I'm just thinking about all those dynamics and like, is there an explanation of how Latin men, let's say, handle their women, their daughters versus African men?
In my opinion, or from what I've noticed, living in Latin America, living in South America, living in DR, living in Africa, even Asia, right? Living in Asia too, as well. I would say the reason behind that for Latin America is because it's the Americas and they're conquered by the same people. So the same things in America you'll see in Brazil. For example, um, the sexual degradation of the society, right? Brazil has the same thing. You go to Rio de Janeiro, you see wild stuff on the beach. You know what I'm saying? So you also see a lot of teen pregnancies in places like Brazil and Colombia. You see a lot of girls that are like 18 and they got a baby that's like 4 years old already. You know what I mean? 3 years old. And it's like, whoa, that's crazy. But that's from the sexually free society. You know what I'm saying? Like people don't have to get married there. Places like Africa, right? If she didn't get married, let's say we have baby, whatever. She didn't get married, right? Or we didn't pay, or I didn't pay the dowry and stuff. There's consequences for those actions by the father, So if if you don't line up with the way things work, the traditions, there's no traditions in Latin America. That's the biggest thing. Because Asia and Africa have
That's true.
traditions. There's no
That's true.
tradition in Latin America. That's the reason why. There's no traditional women, no traditional families, no real traditions. Their whole shit was like erased when the slavers came in, and slavery. Think about it. Look at all the drugs getting pushed through South America. You know what I'm saying? That's just a drug haven.
Man, to that point, like there's no tradition. Like when I went through, trying to, marry my wife, I went to, I went to her father, but then after the fact, I felt like it wasn't like necessary. You know what I mean? Like like I don't think that was important for him, but obviously I thought it was important because that's what men, that's how we were always told or saw to do, is to, get the blessings from the father. And then on top of that, when we had our wedding in Colombia, I was asking her like, well, like what is the traditions? Like, what do y'all do? Because in Africa they have jumping a broom. Different countries have different tribal ceremonies, and so I'm thinking like Latin America is different. They gotta have something that's specific to them, and they didn't have anything. Nothing like nothing unique to Colombia when it came to even weddings. So I was just like, wow. So yeah, you're right. There isn't a lot of tradition as we would expect in the Americas,
Yeah, that goes for the Caribbean also. All those countries in the Atlantic slave trade don't really have traditions. Like for example, here when I went to, I didn't even know I was paying a dowry. It wasn't just her main family unit. Her uncles was there, her aunts were there, cousins were there. It's like a meeting. When you're paying the dowry, it's a meeting. The whole like tribe, the main people from the tribe are there. The aunts, uncles, whatever. So they're there, and I wasn't even negotiating with her father. I'm negotiating with her father's elder brother, because realistically, you're supposed to negotiate with the grandparents, but her grandparents are dead on the father's side. It's the father's side that really calls the shots. So in Africa, for example, if a girl doesn't have a father, not because like single mother, whatever, the father could have died. That happens a lot. Since I've been here, I know a lot of people whose parents have passed away, mother, father. That happens, especially since a lot of these women are married to older men. So I hear a lot about men passing. A lot of these girls, fathers have been passing and stuff like that. So if a girl doesn't have a father, the dowry price is reduced because you're going with the mother. So this patriarchal society. So it's basically like the family unit. If you have a mother and father, your dowry price is higher. Even if you just have a father, your dowry price is still going to be the same as having a mother and father, because the father is the head of the household. He's spending all the money. Basically, paying like a blessing for how well they raised their child. Like for example, she went to boarding school her whole life, so that costs a lot of money, so you don't have to, pay a little bit to dowry, you know what I'm saying? Our dad was cool. They'll work with you, and also dudes have to realize too, not every family is gonna accept foreigners, especially traditional families. Not everyone is gonna accept foreigners, or the price might be higher. So I would say don't get offended. Oh, let me let this bike pass.
Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna do a stream soon to talk about paying dowry versus helping out a family. And what I mean by that is, in Latin cultures or in Asian culture, or let's say Philippines, people always talk about, if you marry her, you're going to be taking care of her family. And I was thinking about it. When you're looked at as taking care of the family, it could be looked at the dowry too, but it's like spread out over a longer indefinitely. And what I like about African culture is that you're not expected to take care of the family. Like if you pay dowry, you pretty much have made your financial commitment, showing your appreciation because you're taking their daughter away. That's the same thing what you see in Asian or Latin countries. A lot of times you're taking that daughter away that is, a pillar to the household. And when you take her away, the family loses something. So that's kind of why you hear stories about in the Philippines or in Latin America. I think it's the same concept, but I'm going to talk about that on a different time. But I want to get into why not talk to the women. So I want you to get into why not talk to the women, because most of the guys, our first interactions with people of a different country are women. And so why not? What is wrong with getting information about women of their country from other women?
Okay, that's a good question. So the same thing would apply. Would you get dating advice in America from women, or would you ask the men? Dating advice from women in America, they're going to say, oh, you need to buy a Gucci bag, $600 wigs. You got to do all this stuff. Nails, $200, $250, car notes. You need $100 for breakfast, $200 for lunch, $350 for dinner. If you're not doing that, you're not a real man. So gender roles play a large part of it, right? Because the men are dealing with the women, so they could tell you how exactly the women are like. Women are never really going to be forthcoming, like realistically. I mean, I'm sure you've had like debates and stuff. Yeah, they're not really like I want to say 100% on, because they trying to word it correctly. I don't want to be offensive, you know what I'm saying? Because women are cool, but I'm saying like when it comes to dating, I wouldn't take a woman's advice as a man. Just like, I guess if roles were reversed, right? Or women should ask other women that are married. Oh, let me mute this.
Was that a rooster or what?
Nah, man, I'm outside. It's cold. I'm about to go back inside. I'm about to go inside and just do the live inside. I like to be outside, get the air, but I'm about to just go back inside. Fuck it. It's a lot of birds just flying around, cars driving. It's rain season. So
Is it like a time of day thing, or is like that all day,
kind of like a time of day thing, but it can be like that all day. It could be. It's just random, like the boaters driving, things like that. It's just everything's just random. It's random. What were we talking about just now, though? Lost my train of thought.
Basically getting advice from women.
Okay, yeah. I would ask the men, because like especially I would ask a man that's married, right? That give the best advice. Just like, for example, when I was getting married, right? When you're getting married here in these countries, your best man and your best lady, they're already married and they've been married for some years. So you pretty much got like advisors. You can't have single people be your best lady or best man. You understand that?
Okay. Now it's two ways you can look at advice. You can look at it, or two types of advice. It could be advice of what type of woman, or how should I court a woman, or how should I treat a woman. You got that advice, and then it's the question of this. Basically, you describing the type of woman that you want. How likely am I able to find that? So, if you want to use the United States, for example, yes. If you ask a typical woman, what you need to do to get a woman, it's going to be, it's going to revolve around spending money, a lot of things, and a lot of other things, right? But I think if you ask a woman, I'm looking for a submissive woman that's that's not really sexually promiscuous, things of that nature, I'm pretty sure they will give you some advice on where to or how to find it or where to find it or even tell you if that still exists. So I think women in the U.S. know that there are still quote unquote goody two shoe women in the U.S. I'm sure they believe there are those women, but so that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like women, I feel like women will give you honest answers depending on what type of questions you ask them.
Okay, let me say this. Okay, so like you said, they're gonna say they believe there's still good women or whatever, but they're not sure because they're not in the dating market of dating women, so they don't know what it's like to tolerate these type of women. You know what I'm saying? They can't even when you look at the content creators, right, talking about women need to be more feminine in America or whatever. They're saying it with like bass in their voice. They're not feminine. You know what I'm saying? They're just regurgitating what they think you want to hear. They're not 100% genuine. They're just telling you what you want to hear. And just like the women overseas, when guys get on Tinder and say, "Hey, I'm looking for a traditional girl," you know, I'll marry you, I'll cook and clean, and then when they get here, I like that, right? People will tell you anything. It's just how gullible are you? You know what I'm saying? Like you just can't be. North Africa, find a wife. North Africa doesn't like that. So the
Let me
dark
see what's your song going.
they don't want that.
I mean, I haven't did any research or got enough intel on North Africa. I mean,
I met some Algerian dudes from Morocco. I'm cool with Hello Yassine. He goes to Morocco. He has like 633K subs. Cool dude. He makes like hip hop content, stuff like that. He told me in Morocco, they don't like brothers like that out there. And if they do mess with you, it's on the hush hush. They won't. You can't get a traditional girl in Morocco.
I mean,
As a black person.
I feel like I feel like you have to like that country to be before you even think about getting a wife. Like if you can't see yourself living there, it's no point in even pursuing it because most women at some point want to be close to their family, either in the early years or later years, and at some point you're gonna end up having to live there. So I don't think there's no countries in North Africa that I would be interested in living in. I know it's heavily Islamic as well. So those are things you have to consider. Paul said, "Married American women take marriage advice from single." Yes, they do. Single American women take advice from their miserable married friends. Yeah, man. I mean, yeah, it's a lot of bad advice. A lot of bad advice. I could really go into that. I could really go into that. But I'm thinking about. So I'm gonna use Colombia for example, right? And in my experience, women in Colombia have been very accurate on describing the women. I remember I had this one friend. I was asking her about women in Cartagena. She was like, "Whoo!" She basically was like, women in Cartagena, they cheat a lot. So she was just like, good, like basically she was like, good luck finding the type of woman you want. And a lot of women say it's, you have to be careful. They don't paint like they don't sugarcoat anything. They kind of keep it up front. So I felt like the men I spoke to in Colombia, I felt like they wasn't really accurate about the women. I mean, maybe they had maybe they found a good woman or had a good experience because maybe because they're there and they know how to pick them. But based on women I've interacted with, it's been, they haven't been like, these goody two shoe type women. So I feel like in Colombia, the women will steer me in the right direction more. I ain't gonna say steer me in the right direction. They're more they aware of the sneaky nature of women. So like you said, right?
Right.
You said that women they don't date women, so they don't really know who's good or who's not. But I would say at the same time, women know women that cheat, and women cheat very very well, better than men. And so women understand the dynamic of women cheating better than we do, because they're the ones that go on the girls trips. They're the ones that go out for drinks or hang out. They're the ones who know that their friends that's married or got boyfriends that's dipping out. So I feel like women do have a pulse on how sneaky women can be.
Okay, I agree with that, but at the same time, a woman can't tell you the role. They can kind of hint on it, but they can't really feel the role of being a man, being a provider, being the head of household. They can't explain to you how to lead the household. They can't even show you by example how to lead the household. You have to learn that from the men. Now, with places like Colombia, it's a matriarchal society, so the guys aren't really leading the household like that. So those matriarchal societies, I don't really rock with. That's why I'm in and out of matriarchal societies. I'm there for a little bit and I'm gone. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, oh, I see how it's going, I'm gone. But yeah, like somewhere like here, for example, my wife's father, he's a very stoic type man. So I learned a lot from him, how to care for your family, how to be a provider, how not to use a lot of energy when you're doing stuff, how to be patient and stuff like that when you're dealing with your family. You know what I'm saying? He shows with his actions how to ensure the longevity of your family. Now, how would you get that from a woman in Colombia or one of these places? How could they tell you how to secure longevity within your family? You know what I'm saying? And you really take it seriously from a woman who can't tell you the role of a man. Gender roles play a huge part in dating, right? Gender roles play like the biggest part in dating, especially in the society. So when me in Africa, right? So I have to basically assume the role of a traditional Tanzanian man. So I have to learn what Tanzanian men do in order to secure my relationship.
Right? So okay, so that's a little different. Like asking a woman how should I lead? I mean, I don't really think men ask women that, and I don't think men would even think to ask a woman how should I lead, because a woman can't tell a man how to lead, and even if she thinks she knows the qualities of a leader, she's gonna be off, because men have to do things that women are uncomfortable with. I want to read this comment real quick. JM said, I'm not gonna, but I'm not trying to hang out with no dudes when I'm overseas, bro.
You don't have to hang out with them. You could just ask them. Like me, for example, I get in the Uber in a new country. I'm asking, hey, what are the women like in this country? What's going on here? How is dating for men here? And like going back to what you were saying, it's not necessarily pretty much you're assuming the role of the men, because American men don't know how to be traditional men. Everything we were taught in America was wrong. Our society's failing. We have the highest single parent percentage ratio out of every country in the world. So everything we were taught about relationship dynamics is incorrect. Gender roles incorrect. We don't even have gender roles anymore. You could chop your dick off and become a woman at any point. You know what I'm saying? So we don't even have gender roles. You can't even do stuff like that in this nation. They won't even allow you to do it. You know what I'm saying? gender roles have disappeared. Same-sex couples can adopt children. You know what I'm saying? So the society has a lot to play in that too. Yeah, man. We were taught 100% correct.
Now I can't speak on Africa about what I'm about to say.
Okay.
But what I noticed in Latin America. Now I would say this: in Africa and Latin America, women respect their men. Women respect their men. Now, how they treat outsiders or view outsiders might be different. So, for example, right? So in Africa, your wife's father is, he's a model, he's a model man, model husband that you can emulate, and he can mentor you or guide you, to be that type. And your wife will respect that. She will respect that. She will accept you just like she would accept another man from Tanzania. Meaning that if you want to rule with I don't want to say rule with an iron fist, but if you want to, be in control, whatever, I don't want to use feminine language, but however you want to describe a man in control, a patriarch runs his household and she's submissive to him, she is allowing you to do that as a foreigner. So what I've noticed in Latin America is that a lot of women are trying to get away from that machismo. Not saying that women in Africa are not get away from traditional men as well, but Latin women tend to only want to deal with men that are different from their men. Myself included. So if I want to come in with that macho, because like I said, Latin women respect their men. So if I want to come in with that machismo, character and try to run things like men in their country, try to, cheat, have side babies like these Latin men, they're not going to allow a foreigner to one, do that, and two to get away with it. So my point is, so I guess what I'm trying to get at is that in Latin culture, in African culture, men get respect from women. But what I'm seeing in Latin culture is that those women won't let you be like those men they won't let you be like those. They won't accept you if you're going to be like those men in a lot of ways. So taking advice from a man in Latin America, or him trying to, or you trying to mimic his behavior with his women, is not going to work, because Latin women are not going to accept you if you're like their men. So so when we're talking about talking to the men of her country, my kind of argument is saying that statement has limitations, because I don't think you could apply it. I don't think you could apply it, to many countries.
Okay, so you can't apply it to Western countries. I agree. Let me answer this good. So by the time you travel overseas, you should already be a man. You shouldn't be learning how to be a man when you're overseas. I disagree with you. Okay, check it. So you know how to be a man in America. You don't know how to be a man in Africa. Think about it. Most dudes don't understand dowry. They don't understand anything to do with traditions, right? When we talk about traditions, you're talking about individual tribes and religions. So you don't know anything about the tribe of the girl you're going to be with. There's many tribes, right? You don't know which girl from which tribe you're going to get with when you get to the country. So you don't know what the role is. Men create the culture. So the other guy didn't really understand, I guess, what I was kind of saying. So You coming over as an American, you're not gonna have the same cultural values as a Tanzanian, a Kenyan, or Ugandan man. You're not even gonna understand because you learn differently. You come from a matriarchal society where men don't have power. So you're coming to a place where men have power and women have gender roles. Men and women have gender roles. So it's totally different. So yes, you have to relearn how to be a man in a patriarchal society. Most American dudes come here and they're like, whoa, wow, by how different it is. Because they never experienced a patriarch before. So I would say travel a little bit more, JM, and you'll see what I'm talking about, especially if you spend more time in these countries.
Yeah, I wouldn't, JM. I wouldn't. I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. And I kind of felt that way too, but I opened my mind to hear what this brother, spoke to me about, several times. And there's two things we can't ignore, right? African men do look at Black American men as a whole as soft, and as much alpha I think I could be, as much controlling I think I could be, if an African man looked at me or looked at my situation and said and called me soft, in aspects in how I deal with relationships, I really can't be offended by that. Because I have respect for they have a patriarch and we don't. So I can't get offended by that. And there are guys, I do have a belief that, well, I'll put it like this, I am open to being reprogrammed to be more masculine. Like, for example, I used to say this all the time, when I started traveling naturally to these countries where I felt more respect just as a man, I started realizing, like, this is what feeling like a man felt like. I thought I knew what it felt like being a man or feeling like a man, but I really felt like a man going to those other countries, knowing that I didn't have to worry about sex, knowing I didn't have to worry about being disrespected. Like those, there's a lot of things that we're not used to in the Matrix. So yeah, I get what you're saying. But I don't think there's nothing wrong with thinking about things in a different way, and seeing how people do things. Because and the last thing I want to say, and I want to respond to Ronan Trials with Alex, is that we can't be like Black women, right? And what I'm saying is that you'll see Black women on a panel with other groups of women, right, from different parts of the world, and they'll be talking about, they'll see how other cultures, how it works, but for whatever reason, Black women get offended when you try to insinuate that they should take something from another culture or be more like them. They get offended by that. They recognize it's a good thing, but then when you ask them to apply it to them, they get offended. And so the problem with that is that Black women, they see the problem, they see a solution, but they don't do anything about it. So we that as men too, to see a better way of doing things, but then reject it at the same time. Hold on, mute yourself. I got Ronan Travelers in the background, Tony. I'm gonna bring him up. See if he got a question. What's good, Alex?
Hey, what's going on? I don't know if I'm coming across with static or anything like that. Let me know.
Okay. I seen your comment. I didn't. I don't know what statement you was disagreeing with, but you could elaborate on you could elaborate on your thoughts real quick.
Can you post it back up real quick? Because you know me, scatterbrain. Let me see that. So the statement I'm making with the Western roles of American women raising men. That's why men in America right now don't know how to run a proper household, because they've had 4 to 5 generations of single mother raising men as far as what they project men should be, not what men are here in America. Okay. So that's where mentorship came from back in the 60s and the 50s. We had older men, our uncles, and they participated in raising us. The statement of it takes a village to raise a child, it does. But strong Black men have to be involved in that child's life, especially if they're young men. And that hasn't happened in over 50 years here in America. That's why the projection of Black men being soft to other cultures would elude, because those cultures see Black women raising men. They already know they're at a disadvantage. So yeah, you going to an African nation and them teaching you their culture and their way of life would be extremely different for more younger young men, because they've never had the mentorship of what a man is here in America. They've never been put through their trials. You know, back in the day, like an Indian, you had to go through trials in order to become a warrior class, a type of personality that shows you that you had that alpha leadership type of mentality. That's not done in our culture anymore. You get what I'm saying? Other cultures do it. Mexicans do it. You know, white American men do it. They raise their children in such a way that they're respected within their communities. Our community over 50 years have been denigrated through policies, governmental assistance, and women taking the easier road versus learning how to deal with their men and using that governmental assistance to break away from men. So there's a difference. Those cultures that you're talking about, especially African nations, they don't give assistance to single mothers. There's a driven reliance on making sure there's a 2-parent household. The way they broke us down is they had a driven reliance on, if you're a single mom, we're going to help you, so don't really need that dad in the house. It's a different way of living. It's a different way of you being brought up, so that it downgraded the level of the responsibility and the availability of having men in your house. It made it easier for women to want to do that on their own. A lot of nations don't do that. So I'm going to shut up so Traveling Tony can talk and respond to some of the things I'm seeing.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. I do agree with you. It's that feminism culture that's what came in, took over. It's become a matriarch, like you said. It's generations of women running households. Even in Caribbean families, you know, there may be men there. Like he was talking about in Colombia, the fathers are silent. They don't really have power, you know, like South America, Caribbean is very similar. All those Atlantic slave trade places, as I was saying before, are very similar. They are conquered by the same people, so it makes sense they're going to have similar beliefs. Even if you want to look at Western Europe, look at France, look at England. It's not just America. Look at Australia. All these Western nations are going through the same problems right now. They even have the same things going on with the LGBTQ plus A minus Z, whatever, all that stuff's going on. All the Western nations are imitating each other. Why? Because they're all conquered by the same people. Conquered and settled by the same people. Not just conquered, they settled there.
Now,
so I agree with you, bro.
Now I want to bring up a concept that does have some truth to it. Now, if you have a society overwhelmingly with alphas, it can be problematic. I remember one thing a pastor told me, and it was so profound. And this was when Barack Obama was president. And I remember telling him, I was like, who did I say? Who came? I don't know if it was in reference to Trump or not. I was like, a lot of people like Trump because he seems more like, he has more like an alpha dog personality. And Barack Obama seemed kind of, passive, and a lot of people felt like, other countries didn't respect us and so forth. And one thing he said was, he was saying that you need a mix of alpha. Well, let's say beta and alpha. You need a mix of beta and alpha males, or if you want to say passive or aggressive males. He said, because when you have too many alphas, that's how wars start. And so you need the betas or passive for that balance. And I think it's a good point. If you have too many alphas, let's say in leadership, it is going to lead to wars. You have too many alphas in a prison cell, it's going to lead to fights. So, and you need that. There's an argument to be made that you need that balance to have a functioning society. What are y'all thoughts on that?
Okay, I'll go first if you like. I believe in something similar to that. Other than alpha males, there's a classification of sigma males too, correct? You know what a sigma male is? He's basically an alpha male, but he's more quiet. He's more of a leader. He controls. He's like puppeteering a lot of people in the room, but he's not the one that's standing out front, pumping on his chest. There's so many different strategies of men. And just because you're an alpha male does not necessarily negate that you're a leader. That's why even back in the days, and Tony can probably tell you, there's classifications even in certain tribes. You have a warrior class, you have a farming class, you have an intellectual class, and then you have the leadership. Okay. Here's the thing. A lot of these guys in America have classified everybody as kings. We're all kings and queens. No, we're not. I absolutely disagree with that. There are classifications in everything in life. Intelligence, the way you carry yourself, everything about you classifies you in a certain realm, whether you're going to be a beta male, a farmer, an intellectual, or a warrior class. But if you notice, most warrior class of people are not led by the warrior, necessarily a general. That general is the sigma class person. He also could be the leader. There's a way of learning yourself out of just being aggressive in a warrior class to where you can learn how to control men. You get what I mean? So there's things that you have to pay attention to in classifications. Everybody wants to classify themselves as alpha men. If they're built, if they feel like they have that machismo about them. You know how many dudes I've seen fail in boot camp, in the Marine Corps boot camp, that thought they were alpha men when they went in there, and they wound up walking out of there like puppies. Yeah. But then you saw that gangly little skinny dude that was tougher than half the dudes that were twice their size. Just because you look like an alpha male and you bark like an alpha male, don't make you an alpha. Most alphas are not going to identify themselves. You have to identify the alpha in the room, because they're the ones that are quiet. They're the ones sitting in the back. Even with their size and intimidation factor, they don't use it first.
Right.
Most men have to use their intelligence first, because you got to assess your enemy. You need to look at a man and break him down to where their weak points could be. You look at a man to see how intellectual they can be, whether you can talk yourself into making them understand your point of view, or whether you need to come down to actually physically putting your hands on somebody. An alpha male and a sigma male, they recognize some of those things. The ones that are pumping their chest out and the ones that you see in the rap game and all, man, those guys are punks. In real life situations, they would not be the ones up front. They don't know how to lead. They know how to run their fucking mouths, was what they know how to do. And this is the projection that social media has given to our culture, is to make people think that the ones that are up front in popular situations like rappers and different actors and different things like that, those are our community leaders? What the fuck? Since when? We don't have a tribalistic situation like Tony is used to and can see. There are ranks to this shit. Just like people say there are levels to this shit in America, there are ranking classes in tribal situations. Everybody's not meant to be a leader. Everybody's not meant to be a warrior. They are weeded out. They are weeded out.
To be honest, every man. Well, you gotta echo. Hold on. To be honest, every man it wasn't meant to have a wife. Hold on, did y'all hear me? No, so every man, historically, it was periods of time where every man couldn't get a wife. If he was inferior genetically, they didn't want him to reproduce. And,
You're absolutely
if
correct. Go along with that thought process. I'm just agreeing with you. You're right. Every man wasn't meant to be a wife, have children and carry on their genetic line. There was genetic outbreeding as well in cultures. But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, also, if you didn't fight and if you didn't call the military, they wouldn't deem you, suitable to get a wife. Some men joined the army or whatever you want to call it, the let's say army, so they could get wives. That was kind of like a rites of passage to be able to, to have a wife in some cultures at some point in time. So everything is not for every man, you know what I mean, to that point. Wanted to get your opinion, Tony, on on those things as well.
Okay, so what he was talking about, just going what he was saying. I actually like Ronan. He's real cool. I've seen him a few times, but what he was talking about, the Sigma male, right? So what we consider alpha in America is actually incorrect. What he was talking about, the Sigma male, is actually the real alpha male. What he's talking about is the Stoic male. I know you know about Stoicism, Will, right? Because it takes a man to maintain level-headedness in order to lead. You can't be quickly riled up. That's not an alpha. An alpha is able to maintain level-headedness throughout the situation and pick the correct path for the family to follow, for him to follow, whatever. The people he's leading, he's going to lead them correctly. If you're emotionally disturbed at every little turn and you're getting riled up, you're not an effective leader. You're not, just because you might be the strongest physically, that doesn't mean you're an effective leader. To be a leader requires a certain amount of intellect. And like he was talking about with the different tribes, he's also correct. But as far as marriage, not everybody being able to get married, I think in these African cultures, there's always been somebody for someone. Because I even see like disabled dudes with wives, dudes who are, they may have a partial limb missing or something like that. They still are able to find love. You know what I'm saying? They're still able to find wives. I see all types of people married, so you can find a significant other in these other societies more easily because people aren't just looking at the material. You know what I'm saying? It's not just a clout society. You know what I'm saying? People are actually looking at real tangible things for creating a family, things that actually matter. What else were you talking about? Did you want me to hit on?
I think y'all pretty much summed it up. I just kind of talked about how men, how alpha versus beta male, and too many alphas can be problematic for a society. So, so I try to. I guess that's what I want you to get your opinion on, because if we are saying that patriarchs are doing it better, does that mean that these patriarchs are full of alpha male, alpha aggressive male?
No, people here aren't even aggressive. That's the thing. The whole aggression thing, I don't know where that came in to be at, but you don't have to be aggressive. I was taking the aggression that we would have in North America and South America, the Americas, even the Caribbean, and I came to Africa with that initial aggression. You know what I'm saying? And I realized I had to dial it back. You know what I'm saying? You don't need to go into situations like, puffed up and shit like that. Like it's cool, relax. That's why they say Hakuna Matata, no worries with you. They're not like. So what I noticed with these African societies, and if we want to compare it to American societies, is people are calm until it's actually time for an issue. When it's time to fight or battle, they will. but it has to escalate to that. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't. Things don't escalate rapidly in these countries like it does in America. You know, it'll go from us talking to guns out, knives out, hands. You know, right away in America. You know, these places it doesn't escalate rapidly like that. I don't know if Ronan had anything to say about that.
No, I agree.
Hold on,
with you.
let me respond. I don't want to forget this point. I personally think that we shouldn't be saying Africa. I think we should be more country specific, and this is why. Because if we look at Nigeria, Nigeria is Nigerians are considered aggressive by nature. You know what I mean? Hard on their women. And if you look at their country, it's not the best ran country. It is a patriarch. It's not the most level-headed country. You know, they have their issues when they really should be the leader of the continent in a lot of ways, but they aren't. So if you want to group Africa in one, I would say Nigeria isn't helping the argument because they are aggressive in culture. They do have a patriarch, but it's not working for them. You know, if you agree or disagree, well, if you agree, then why isn't their patriarch working? Why them having a lot of alphas? Why is that not working for their country? Tony.
Well, if you look at Nigeria, they emulate Black Americans to a T. You know, they emulate the West, not just Black Americans. They emulate the West, and Nigerians also have a terrible reputation in Africa. Terrible. Like, I can get my girl right now. They talk bad about Nigerians all the time. They automatically assume I'm a Nigerian right away. Everybody assumes I'm a Nigerian. But that's where we come from. That's where we have our DNA. If you notice, we do have similarities to Nigerians and West Africans because that's where we come from, right? Right. DNA is very similar to them. So even Nigerians, right? So Nigerians, they're not running their country correctly at all. Because if you Google most promiscuous women or most women that cheat on their men, Nigeria is number one. I think 62% of their women in a survey admitted to cheating on their husbands. So Nigeria is a terrible example. You know? So I honestly, I just don't try to, because I have a lot of people, you know, like you, we got people in Africa watching our content. So I try not to isolate African countries and talk about the bad traits. I try to just talk about Africa as one, as cool, because that's what they try to all do. When the African people that contact me and stuff like that, they say, stop trying to divide the continent, stop trying to divide the continent. So I stopped trying to, pick on the different countries, even though it's different. Like, because for me, for example, places like South Africa and Nigeria, I have zero interest in ever going back to again. I have zero interest. They emulate the West too much. But if you Google, if you even do research on African countries, most westernized African countries, the two African countries that are going to be at the top are going to be Nigeria and South Africa. They're going to be the most westernized. You know what I'm saying? So that has a lot to do with it. Westernization. Westernization has the most to do with how people are acting.
In my respect, I'm not too versed on all the different cultures within African nations. I do appreciate now that a lot of the African nations and tribes are starting to open their borders and allowed free range from country to country. I appreciate that. That's what they need to do. They need to take back their rare earth metals. They need to do the things they need to do in order to control their destiny, because they've allowed all the Europeans to come in and pretty much disseminate their government into a way the European can use to control them. Okay. Mm-hmm. But I come from, and my ancestry is not traditional when it comes to Nigerians being the strongest sect. I'm Cameroonian. I'm from Congo. That's where my people are from.
Yes.
Yeah. So where a lot of people say their ancestry is based in Nigeria, that's not where my ancestry is based from. You know, mine is heavily in the Cameroonian, Congo, Mali area. You know, so whether that genetically disposes you to believe a certain thing or act a certain way, I do believe genetics have a lot to do with it. I don't know if I'm getting feedback or somebody just jumped in.
No, y'all was saying you was morphing a little bit. You usually got a pretty smooth audio, but I don't know. I don't know if it's internet.
Yeah, I'm getting a little static today. I don't know what it is. I'm plugging things as I go to try to figure out where my Wi-Fi is going bad.
Video.
But yeah, I think culturally, you know, like I was saying, even in some of your other African podcasts, you know, culturally they're very strong in their tribal beliefs because they have their identity. Where Western Black Americans go wrong is they don't have any self-identity. They have an assumed identity. So that makes us weaker overall as individuals because your strength comes from your base. If you have no base to pull from, you really have no identity strength. So individually, you have no identity or strength. So that's where we as African Americans, and why I encourage everybody that's listening, replays this shit, go identify who you are as a person, as an individual, as a nation, understand, and then start studying so you can get pride in your base and you can reroot yourself where you were torn away from those things. Whether you want to go back to Africa and do all those things that a lot of people are negative about doing, doesn't matter. Get a base on who you are. Understand, white, Asian, Mexicans, they all have roots. They all have bases. They have generational identity. We don't even have that. So what are we standing on truly as Black Americans is fantasy. And until you stabilize that fantasy with fact, you can't build on sand.
Yeah. Hold on, I got Mr. G in the building. You can unmute yourself, man.
Hey, good morning, man. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Brother was speaking on a lot of good stuff, man. I remember the conversation I had with you regarding submission and different type of cultures, things of that nature, patriarchal cultures. And I was telling you that American men wouldn't even know what to do with submission. And I don't mean it in the like super literal sense. It's just when you consider what the brother told you, how he was able to, I guess, be around other men of different culture to understand how the culture moved, to understand the full nature of the culture. That's very important. Some of us, if we don't get that sort of introduction to how things get done or how we should behave in certain different cultures, we won't even know what to do with what some of these women offer us or what we have to demand to them.
You have morphed out. You have morphed out a little bit. Can you repeat that?
No, I was just saying that if we don't get that introduction from whether it's the other man or just by learning those cultures, we won't really know how to deal with these women. You heard me?
Yeah, I heard you. So you agree that we need to, I would say as men, we need to try to learn more on how men do things in, let's say in Africa, for example. You think that's something that would be beneficial to us to try to learn and understand, kind of how they move as men and things of that nature?
Yeah, definitely. And I have a friend who's married to a Dominicana. I like to say, and not that I like to say, but like one conversation we're having, he told me something specific to how he sort of control or certain shit in his relationship. His wife can do a certain thing, and I was like, damn, you are literally Dominicanized. he has been Dominicanized. He know the way he's married to a Dominican woman. He know the way some of these Dominican men would have dealt with these Dominican women. And I told him, you have been Dominicanized. He's lived over there like 10 plus years. He understands the nature. I mean, it's just, for example, and you guys may not agree. He, I don't want to reveal his identity. He brought his wife back. He got a big house. You know what he told his wife? You can't go work out in the gym. I'm building a gym in this house. And maybe that's just him, right? But these are some of these things that some of these measures he put in his relationship, where he put his foot down to where he's controlling his relationship. She took a picture with a coworker. Coworker got his arm around her. He's like, you need to delete this picture. You're not putting it on social media. You delete this picture from social media. He doesn't take a certain shit. So some of us American men, the way we are raised, even for me, I'm like, damn, bro, you being, don't you think that's a little crazy? But him having fully understand how to deal with these women, he put his foot down a certain way. To be honest with you, I wouldn't be doing all that.
No, that makes a lot of sense, man. Like, and that goes back to what the title was about and what I was telling him, when we were talking about over the past couple weeks. You got to ask the men, culturally, the men are going to tell you how to be a man in their society. Because like you said, he's Dominicanized. Being a man in Dominican Republic is different from being a man here in Africa, or being a man in Latin America is different from being a man here in Africa. Different ways of running the household, how things are going, because they may have a little bit more of a matriarchal, like, I guess, amount of power. It might be a little bit more matriarchal, but not fully. It's still maybe primarily patriarchal, but it's a little like Kenya, for example. Kenya's a little bit more matriarchal. So they got a little bit of spiciness to them. So I agree. And that's what I was saying, ask the men. So I agree with you, brother.
Let me ask you, brother, because it sounds like you've been to a few places around the continent. Have you been to Madagascar?
I was going to go to Madagascar. Actually, so what happened was, I was just moving around, seeing where I loved, where I wanted to stay and live and plant my feet or whatever. So I was going to go to Madagascar. The reason why I didn't go is because it was crazy during COVID and stuff. And French is their second language. So there's like no English speakers there. So I at least there's already a language barrier here because Swahili is the primary language. But people could at least communicate. So going to Madagascar, communication would have been not impossible. So I was kind of cool on that without like a translator or something like that. And I didn't want to do that because I'm not just like, I wasn't just moving around, just trying to run the numbers up. I was actually, like I said, trying to plant my feet and, come back to the motherland and make my base. I was trying to have a home base. So that's why I didn't end up going to Madagascar. For me, it's only English-speaking countries from now on. At least English as a second language. That's how I'm moving. What were you saying?
I don't know if excuses away or anybody wants to say something else, but yeah. So I kind of figured that well, I happen to being Haitian myself, I happen to have the French background. I can speak French, and I, I'm going to South Africa, and I looked up the map, and I'm like, dang, I don't want to spend all my 20 days in just one place. And kind of wanted to, taste a little bit of everything. When I go to Colombia, I go to different cities. So I'm like, dang, this looks very tempting. And I kind of look it up. I'm like, this may be the perfect spot, man. It's a gym because especially, the language barrier. It's Africa anyway. Most dudes traveling, as far as, this whole passport bro kind of trained. Most people ain't going to Africa. Most places in Africa, they ain't going to most of these countries in Africa because it's too far. And this is my first trip. I'm not gonna lie, it took me a minute to get there. And let alone that, if you can go to a country where there's a language barrier, that'd be a gem. But I don't know much about it because I know it's an island. I kind of wanted to see because I heard it can be a little shady and things of that nature, but I think I may have to slide there, man, because they like they got what I did like they got what I want. That mix, that Asian and black mix, they got that over there too.
Oh yeah, yeah. I heard they're not as curvy though in Madagascar though. You know, I heard they just slim cuties out in Madagascar.
Yeah, you might be right, because I mean the Polynesian, what they mix with Polynesian and Bantu people. So I'm thinking I may go check it out, but that ticket's hella expensive though. Right next door from Joburg, it's like 500. Look like 500 some dollars, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, the flights are real to Madagascar. That's another reason I didn't go. At the time, with COVID or whatever, they wanted like $4,000 to get from here to Madagascar. So from here, I think I had to fly to like England or something, and then back to Africa because of the way the airlines were set up. It was crazy. But I actually seen people from Madagascar when I was going to Kenya the last time. I seen their football team members. So they didn't speak any English. They actually had a translator with them. But you being Haitian, speaking French, that's dope, bro. You're gonna have a good time. Make sure you maybe pull up on No Excuses channel, or comment on my channel. Let me know your experience, man. I'm definitely interested. I read up a lot about Madagascar from white dudes, though. I want to see the black dude's perspective. You know what I'm saying? A lot of traveling perspectives that I've came across since I've been doing it for a minute is from the white dude perspective. I like to hear the brother's perspective.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
did.
I'm go ahead, bro.
No, I was gonna say I did interview Taylor Made on his Madagascar trip, man. He gave a lot of good insight, and also he talked about Madagascar on his channel too. But I kind of want to like close the segment talking about we pretty much agree that this topic mainly applies to Africa as far as talking to men of her country, and I think it makes sense because I believe we especially as black men we can learn a lot from African men. We can learn a lot for what a patriarch looks like or what it should look like, and how it works. It's not really too much debate on that. What I am curious about is why African women. Well, when I put it like this, when African women date outside of their race, they're not expecting. Well, they're not asking. They're not wanting you to be different from their men as far as how they treat the women. They just a lot of times they want marriage and want to be taken care of for the most part. And so in Latin, like I said, in Latin America, it just seems like they be softer. You basically have to be softer than their men, or else they're going to feel like I might as well date my own men if you're going to do this or do that. So hold on. So yeah, if you guys could give me your opinion on why you think African women why African women wouldn't have a problem with you being like their man, but Latin women have a problem if you're like their man.
I could talk on that. So with Latin America, they have more exposure to Americans. So they want you to be American because they know North Americans are more simpish. You know what I'm saying? We pretty much started the simping, and then it moved this way down to Latin America, and it's taken hold there. But they're not as simpish as us. Like, we would just send a girl $1,000 just because these guys on Tinder and stuff like that are really be wilding. So I get why, because it's to their advantage for us to not act like they're men. You know what I'm saying? African women don't have much experience with American men or Western men at all in general. So they're just happy to have a man that's going to take care of them. So that's the biggest difference, I would say. And I would say asking the men isn't just for Africa. I would say it goes for Asia as well. Africa and Asia are pretty similar. The only real difference is with Asia is people of African descent are at a disadvantage. So us, the darker you are, you know, Asia has that real colorism problem. So the darker you are, you're obviously at a disadvantage. So, but yeah, that's my take on it. I don't know if Ronan has anything to say, or Mr. C or G. I can't even see.
I'm trying to check to see if I'm gotten any lag currently. I'm turning things off throughout my whole house to make sure I'm not getting any lag. How am I sounding?
Okay. Sounds good.
Man, it just.
Go ahead.
No, I know what's going on. I know what's going on. I'm gonna correct it next time. But go ahead.
Oh, okay. You know, I can't speak too much on African women because I haven't experienced them one-on-one. I can only talk from the experience with having verbal conversations with them. You know, but the machismo Latino persona that men have to do, there's still a level of respect that those women still bow down to, you know, and you can see it even when they come to America. You can have a hardworking Mexican man that does construction or gardening and whatever, but he's not treated any less when he comes home. He is still the man of the house. He's still the provider. He's still the protector. He's still getting the things femininity-wise from his women, no matter what level of education, no matter what level of income. You know, and in African societies, I believe it's becoming a little more westernized based on the level of importance you hold in what do you call it? Perceived wealth. Maybe not real wealth, but perceived wealth. Those cultures hold you in a higher regard, similar to Western nations. You know, you have perceived wealth, you have real wealth, you know, and a lot of the ones that are up front acting like they're wealthy really aren't wealthy. They don't really own their own shit. They're working for somebody else, but making a shit ton of money. That's not wealth. You know, we even have the wrong perception of what wealth is. You know, a lot of the tribes, they've had family members that have been established on land forever. That land has wealth. It's stable. You know, they grow their cattle through dowries and other things. That's stability. That's something tangible that you can touch, taste, or feel. A lot of technology has gotten us away from understanding those basic factors of true wealth is something you can touch, that's tangible. It's not the Bitcoin that's a perceived value and can go away tomorrow the minute somebody drops an EMP on a server farm and makes you lose all your wealth instantly. Then really, are you wealthy? Where's your tangibility at? Your tangibility is on things you can touch. So our perception here in the Western nations are truly screwed up when it comes to a lot of different things, including our relationships. You know, so I can understand where the other women would want you to have that hip hop type of culture that they watch on TV, the perceived wealth that these guys project. But, you know, in 5 years down the road, they've spent up all their money from their royalties and everything else. It's that immediate thing that they see on social media and TV that they desire from Western men. But truly, a lot of Western men don't even know how to maintain the wealth that they gain. And it's only a fleeting moment because they don't know how to reinvest. They don't know how to buy land, tangible things. They're going into these social media hyped investments that mean nothing at the end of the day. Short-lasted, short-lived, people run and gun, they're scamming you from the bottom, and they run away with your money and you have no recourse. That's not wise with your money. That's not being wise with your wealth. You know, so I can see why these other countries look up to America, but ultimately when they get here, I think they can see some of the scams that are going on too, because they come from those cultures of where they understand what's tangible. And some of these women will give you good advice on making sure you're maintaining tangible things, not unperceivable things.
Yeah, the women with fathers for sure. Those are the ones that are going to give you advice like that. I agree. I agree 100%. But another thing too, like he was saying, going back to why they wouldn't want you to act like a local man but an American, is because a lot of those girls, for lack of better terms, are sluts. So they want to be able to get on social media in lingerie with just like nipple stickers or a thong, got the butt cheeks hanging out. Colombian dudes aren't going to be with that, but American, chances are he'll be like, oh, okay, I got a baddie, sure, let her show off her body. But realistically, that's not what a man's supposed to do. Not supposed to let other men see your woman's body.
I mean, on that note, you said Colombian men are not with that, but they are. I mean, we're not like the one that brings that over there, kind of a thing. In their culture, the nature of their culture, um, is really like so. So okay, so let me back up real quick. Okay, I agree with what everything you had said earlier, right? I think the cultures are different. The cultures are extremely different, right? Latin culture is a romantic culture. Um, romantic culture in the sense of the word romantic, like really romantic, lovely kind of romantic. Romantic in the sense that it's a culture, Roman culture. It's a Roman culture, right? From Rome, Catholic Rome, and all of that, right? So it's just the nature of their culture. The nature of their culture, the whole chivalry, pedestalizing, um, it's almost, I mean, it's almost to say Latin culture is really simpish in a way. Um, but they're more, no. They're more romantic, right? They're more romantic, not exactly simpish, but it's the culture by nature, they're romantic. That leaves the room for the Americanization simpish to slide in, right? Um, you have like, Nigerian men are pretty simpish too, right? But they're
Right.
not romantic. They're not known to be romantic, right? So,
Right.
so when you look at it from a semi-scientific kind of perspective, is that their culture is completely different. Whereas, like PDA, right? PDA, you will find that PDA, even though I've never been to Africa, but the knowledge that I have is that PDA is not something you're gonna widely see in people just kissing, making out. Like in Africa, that's not a thing that's of that culture like that. Where in Latin culture, it's completely different, where it's not a problem, things of that nature. So the nature of the cultures are completely different. So the answer, I think, is a little bit more nuanced than as we make it to be. But what the brother did say earlier is kind of correct because proximity to the US is sort of the things that leave the door open. And I feel like if, some of these countries in Africa, the more proximity they have with Western culture or more Western people going to their country, settle there, the more the influence you will see. I mean, it's just scientific or environmental scientific fact.
No, I agree with you. No, I
Okay.
agree with you because that, like you were talking about, romantic from Rome, right? That's where all the sympatry shit really took hold because even the word misogynist that comes from Greek, that's a Greek word. You know what I'm saying? So they created all that sympatry, misogyny, misandry, all that shit. So I agree with you. I agree.
Free game is up, man. Can
What's
you?
up, man? How you doing?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
I'm just calling and I'm just asking questions as far as the African culture more, not the South American culture, because I'm really not interested in going out there. But now I talked to a couple African girls. I talked to a couple, but I noticed that a lot of them are not looking for providers. They're they make it seem like they're looking for providers, but they just want some easy money. You know what I mean? It's my birthday.
Sponsor, sponsor,
Yeah,
sponsor.
yeah. Yeah, it's my birthday.
Financier, financier.
Yeah, the first thing, somebody sick, data money. It's my birthday. Um, the run of the mill excuses they have to get some money out of you. So, and this is mostly in Kenya. It's mostly in Kenya.
I'm,
Kenya, it's by far the worst. It far as the I I I
That's the
don't want
DR of Africa.
shit. Uganda too. They begging too. It's my
a
birthday. It's my
Ugandan chick,
birthday.
a Ugandan chick just hit me with the I'm sick just seconds ago.
Well, guys, let me chime in here real quick, right? And I think the brother probably can speak on that. And I do, um, and maybe my perspective is a bit different because I was born in a quote unquote third world country, so I can kind of understand certain things. Because like true, real poverty, even if you were born in the hood here, like Americans don't know it. Like if you were born in the projects here in the United States, that's like strata 3 or 4 in Colombia, 4, 5. I mean, the projects of America, right? Um, the projects in America, food stamp and government cheese, and it's not the same as projects in Uganda or being in poverty in Uganda. So I think at times, not having that good understanding of that and I'm not saying there's no criticism, there's no room to criticize the beggars because I've run into that myself. And my homeboy had to teach me. He was like, yo, the data thing is a scam, right? The chick trying to get over on you. But you guys have to understand, like poverty from somewhere else is completely different. And then not that I'm making excuses, but you guys have to understand that. And I think sometimes you guys do forget that. So you're gonna get these little things. That's a given.
So yeah. You right in a way. You right in a way. The reason why I say in a way because when somebody mess up their credit in America, see, in these third world countries, they don't have credit. When you mess up your credit and you thousands, hundred thousands of dollars in debt, boy, that's a tough place to be. That's a tough place to be. A lot of these people with student loan debt and they was just in a high job, they was just in a high paying job, and now they out there in California, and now they on the street. They're on the street begging for money or on drugs or to cope with the debt that they're in. Like it's not a track record of your debt in third world countries. You can go get anything quickly. If you got the money, you can get it. But in America, you have some bad credit if you want to. You might not be able to get an apartment.
So free game. I know you mentioned you
You broke up. You
was
broke
there
up.
anything specific you wanted to talk about?
So yeah. So
anything specific about Africa?
Yeah. So I want to ask y'all. The men who are experiencing in Africa, especially Kenya. How do a guy deal with the beggar?
Don't go
deal
on
with the
Tinder.
beggar?
Well, yeah,
Don't go on Tinder.
yeah. I wanted to say. Let me say this real quick, guys. Um, so every time I come on YouTube, I really try hard, but sometimes I can't help myself. But y'all probably already know what the problem is. Here's the thing, right? You can't. And recently, I saw a brother on YouTube, and I shall name it and not name him. If y'all want to, you can. But you cannot go to a country. You're looking for promiscuous women. You go over there for that attention, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing. Look, I'm going to South Africa. I kind of got the gist of the nature of South Africa. It's a little bit, it got a strong sprinkle of liberalism on there over there, right? It is what it is.
Mhm.
It is what it is. I can't be going over there with the mindset I already know what's up. I'm looking to enjoy me some juicy nyash
excuse my language. I mean, I don't know if I'm saying anything crazy. Nyash, I'm looking to see if literally I text my homeboy this week. I'm like, I sent him a video. I'm like, bro, is this real? Is this really real? Is this really real? This is what people in America are getting surgery for. Is this really real? Right? So don't I can't go over there with that kind of mindset and I already know what's up, you know. Hey, I'm looking to get the Nyash experience. And then I'm jumping on YouTube. Oh my God, you know what? You know, South Africa, they got a bunch of promiscuous women, yada yada, blah blah blah. Y'all need to start doing this shit, and I don't think not enough people calling people out, and this is what gives our community a bad name. If you're going over there, you intentionally are looking for something specific. There is a certain specific type of work you have to do to separate yourself, not only to separate yourself, but to separate from the crowd and things of that nature. Like I already know, like if I move to Africa, I will have to immerse myself in the culture, you know, to understand the culture and move, maybe move away from the city if I'm looking for a true, authentic woman. You know, you can't go over there, you're doing all this stupid, dumb Western shit. This is exactly what you want. And then now you want to be like, oh, you know, Kenya, they got a bunch of promiscuous women. Yes, I'm sure there are promiscuous women in Kenya, but I'm sure there are a lot of good women. I'm sure there's a lot more good women in Kenya that are not on the promiscuous shit than there is in America. But if you're not looking for it, you're not going to find it, bro. It's out there, and I don't even know why this is. And I know, and I'm not coming at you personally or attacking you, free game, but I understand why you may be asking that question because there's a YouTuber on YouTube. He has a short, I think, if I'm not not sure, if I'm not mistaken, highlighting, oh, how Kenya, they got all these promiscuous women. Bro, did you go over there looking for a wife? Did you go over there looking for a wife, bro? Stop playing with people, bro. This is really fucked up for you know shitting on African women image. Even though he said Kenya, but that's kind of like shitting on African women image. Some of these countries got different dynamics, right? Where South Africa, I mean, there's more. I guess I'm not saying there is, but maybe I'm guessing there's more Westerners there because it is a mixed culture with white people living there. It's a little bit more somewhat enlightened, a little bit more advanced. They even have social safety nets in Africa. You know what I'm saying? They have handouts in Africa. You know, I mean, if y'all want to say, you know, kind of like America a bit, right? Housing and things of that nature. South Africans get that. They get housing and things of that nature. And this is one of the reasons there's this big beef with South African and other black foreigners. Let's say you're Nigerian, you're Ethiopian, you move to South Africa. That's why there's a big beef in rising against those foreigners in South Africa because the South Africans think these people are living in their free housing and things of that nature, right? You know, so that's a bit different. There are other places in Africa, you know, I don't know how Tanzania is. There are other places in Africa. There probably isn't no free housing. There's no handout. You know, so it's gonna be different. Tanzania is gonna be different. Uganda is gonna be different. Zambia is gonna be different. Mozambique is gonna be different. Madagascar is gonna be different. You know, you go over there to my Africa, you know, promiscuous women, yada yada. That shit right there, I'm gonna lay on this. It really pissed me off. What pisses me off the most is that nobody calls his brother out on this whole shit.
I call them out, bro. I call them out on their idiocy. I can tell you're very educated and very logical. A lot of these dudes aren't logical. They're getting on Tinder, talking to prostitutes, expecting them to be wild. Go ahead.
Let me say this real quick, and then I'll let you go. I'll let you talk for a game.
Okay.
Now that I'm seeing a lot of passport bros.
I
Literally,
think you were breaking up, but go ahead. Not that I see, we didn't catch the rest. Not that I see, we didn't catch the rest. Maybe it's my internet.
Yeah, we all got delays. But I see now that passport bros, and I'm and I consider myself a passport bro, we do fuck up the cultures. I mean, we can't deny it no more. Like, as much as I want brothers to explore their options, we are bringing our American ways. We're bringing our simp habits. South Africa, it could be an example because South African men are considered, stingy. Like, South African men wasn't called stingy before. Hold on. My bad. South African men wasn't called stingy before other groups of men came there. Stingy is a new concept. That simp, trick culture to these countries and we're Americanizing things everywhere we go. So it's a gift and a curse encouraging guys to travel because we are fucking shit up. But I'm gonna let you go. Oh, go ahead, free game.
Yeah, y'all can hear me.
Yeah.
So with that being said, now I'm a piggyback off Mr. G real quick. I'm not going over there to get prostitutes or whatever. I'm actually going over there to start business, and I just like that women more. You know what I mean?
My brother, can I please interrupt you real quick? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But like, listen though, it's okay if you're not. It's okay if you're not looking for a wife. That doesn't automatically equate to you looking for a prostitute. It could just be hanging out. You having authentic link ups with people and things. It doesn't mean you're looking for prostitutes. Let's not. I understand what you're saying, but the way you kind of said it kind of make it equal to that. It doesn't have to be like it's either you're looking for a wife. Other than that, you're looking for a prostitute.
No, yeah. I get what you mean. I get what you mean. No, I wasn't saying it like I wasn't trying to say it like that. But what I mean is I got 2 kids that's already here in America. I can't go over there and play around like I can just run around having sex with different women. That's I still have kids to take care of here. And I'm going over there. I mean business. Yeah. I'll talk to different women there. But no, I have no intentions on having them as like just sexual objects. You feel me? So I tell them we have like real life conversations or whatever. But I'm definitely not looking for that passport pookie mentality over there. I don't want to bring I don't want to bring the American mentality to Africa and then start complaining about their women and we the ones that's messing the culture up, like, so Tony had on the show, me and him just got into it over the same thing. You basically doing sex tourism, and then you complain about the girl, and then you get somebody pregnant, and you in another country. It's like, no, you're bringing the same mentality from America to Africa. That's fucked up, in my opinion. That's messed up. If you gonna do what you do, tell them, be straight up, be upfront, but don't go bringing that baby daddy mentality to Africa and then complain about people begging you for money. Well, people know your intentions. They know what type of man you are. So we in these WhatsApp groups, and as soon as you bring up business, everybody quiet. As soon as you post a picture in the group, this is what I'm talking to. Oh yeah, she thick, she this, she that. No, but when we bring up business, everybody quiet. Everybody quiet. So I want to build businesses to have land for my children that's already here in America for they can always go to, always go to. But I still wanted the people that have visit in Africa to kind of give me a perspective on the culture in Kenya, because that's where I want to start some business at. It's either going to be Kenya or South Africa. So I still need perspective on the culture. And the predatory. You got to put his thing on mute.
Hold on. Let me get
Yeah, put that
Cool
brother
Breeze
on
in.
mute.
Hold on, real quick. Let me mute Free Game. Cool Breeze.
Hold on 1 second. Yo, hey Rob, what's good, baby? What's poppin'?
What's good, man?
I think oh, it's all good. I shot you a text, man, on the on IG. Check it out. The question you answered me. The question you had asked me, rather. I'm sorry.
Okay.
What's happening?
Okay, what you got? What you got on the topic?
Yeah, I just jumped in, man. Can you bring me up to speed real quick, please?
Oh man, we pretty much just been talking about in an African country it's better to get advice. Hold on. Let me mute you real quick. Let me mute you. Hey fellas, I'm gonna end the stream because I'm just having too many technical difficulties. I apologize. I will be on next Sunday. I will have Tony, Traveling Tony, back. But I appreciate you guys bearing with us and things of that nature. So I'm gonna end the stream due to technical difficulties.
All right.
So
cool. I'll be streaming on Saturday too, so I'll be having another panel Saturday.
Okay.
I'll stream with you and without you both days.
Okay, I'll make sure I have Traveling Tony's page. I'm gonna have him back in 2 weeks. You know what I mean? So we can, hopefully we'll have a cleaner stream in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm thinking
Okay.
maybe.
All right, hit me up, bro.
Okay, I hit you on the back end. Cool Breeze, man. We're gonna have to catch you next time, man. We're gonna catch you next time, man. All right, man. There y'all have it, man. Appreciate y'all bearing with us, man. Some technical difficulties with the StreamYard, but I will be back on next Sunday, and pretty much every Sunday through the end of the year. We'll be talking about Africa. I'll be in Africa in a couple weeks. Looking forward to that. So if you please like and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment to support the algorithm. See y'all next Sunday. Peace out.